Lasso Motel. So they're a NDP out of Dallas, Texas.
What's an NDP?
What's an NDP, you might ask? So an NDP is a non-distilling producer. So basically, they're a distillery, but they don't make their own juice.
So they're located in Dallas, Texas, but they get their juice shipped in from elsewhere.
Correct.
I believe you mentioned they primarily get their stuff from MGP and Green River.
Green River out of Kentucky, yep, and MGP out of Indiana. So the one we're going to talk about today is the Lasso Motel, the 18-year. It's a straight whiskey. If you notice, there's no bourbon on there.
Right? Why is there no bourbon on there?
Well, because what they did is they used, because it's a straight whiskey, it aged for a minimum of 2 years in new charred oak barrels. But then what they did is then they transferred the distillate into used barrels, right? And that's one of the things. Once you transfer it, or if you used barrels right off the rip, it's no longer legally bourbon.
I see. Why do you think they did that?
Well, partially because, so this mash bill, this is a 99-1. So this is an MGP mash bill.
99%.
It's 99% corn, 1% malted barley.
Mm.
So I think with that particular mash bill dumped in used barrels, that's why they can get the kind of H statement they can, right? Because it doesn't get over oaked. I don't know if
because the sweetness of the corn is counteracting that.
Yeah, and I really think it has something to do with not having like rye in there.
Sure.
And a small amount of malted barley that in used barrels it just doesn't. I mean, it's an oaky gal, but it's not.
I remember how stricken you were when you saw that it was an 18-year-old American whiskey.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is this is a cask strength.
Yes.
So this is 120, was it 121? Yep, 121 proof. Now, you know personally, because I've talked about it with the Elijah Craig 18 that we have, it's an 18-year-old bourbon, proofed way down.
Which makes sense because it's a bourbon that's 18 years old. When they took it out of the barrel, it probably tasted akin to biting.
Probably super, super oaky. So you have to add water to get it to where it's sort of drinkable for the masses. Where this one caught my attention because it's 18 years. I don't care that it doesn't say bourbon on it. I don't care that they used barrels. I didn't care that it was a 99-1. It's just something 18 years at cask strength. Just I couldn't say no. Now, full disclosure, I don't know what distribution's like, at least here in Texas, because it's a Dallas company. Mm-hmm. These are at Total Wines everywhere.
Not at Specs though.
No, Specs doesn't carry. So it might be one of those things where they've got an in.
They have a contract.
They've got something with Total Wine, because even in some of the other liquor stores that I've seen, I haven't seen their stuff. Which isn't in the business isn't surprising. Like they sign an agreement with like I said, with Total Wine, where they're just they're only selling.
Irish Republic did that with their Sleight of Hand series.
Yes, they did the same thing with the Sleight of Hand, right? So now, full disclosure with Lasso Motel, they've got a bunch of different stuff.
This was the first one, the first and only one that you acquired before adding two more to the pile, the Naranja cask finish.
Yep.
Which you found very impressive.
Yeah.
Much more so than the Penelope offering.
Yeah, the Rio that I have up there, I wasn't a big fan of. But what I like about this, and I think it has to do with the fact that it's sourced Green River, is that that whiskey really picks up on the secondary barreling. So we started with the Naranja, we bought the 18, and then we also bought the Ambarana finish, and we sampled them both a couple weeks ago when we got them, and I was really impressed. Like if you ever really want to get into like different barrel finishes and really understand like what an Ambarana finish brings or what a Naranja cask brings,
Lasso Motel is a good place to do it.
Everything that I've had so far, I'm super excited about. Where some of the other stuff that we've bought, especially with the rum finishes.
Yeah, they tame it down too much.
It's just, it just doesn't. Now with ryes, for whatever reason, ryes tend to pick up those secondary barrels really, really well. I don't know why, or maybe that's just my opinion. These are the first bourbons where they've, like the secondary barrel, you're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to taste like. So if you've never had like an Ambarana finish or an Arana cask finish, these are great if you live in and around the state of Texas, because you can really understand what those casks bring to whiskey.
Well, let's try some.
Let's try the 18.
By all means.
Once again, 121 proof. It's not a bourbon, but I tell you what, with all that corn, that 99.1, it's super sweet. It's going to have some oakiness to it, obviously, right? At 18 years.
Unless they kept it in a plastic box.
Right, but it's a sweet oak, right? So it's a very sugary oak. And it's just almost like a buttery like toffee note to it.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with the buttery notes. It matters how high the proof is.
Yeah, just off the nose, you can't tell that it's that kind of proof, right?
The color is also interesting.
Yeah, it's very light, right? Because it's just very light because it didn't sit in new chartered barrels for 18 years. So
it's having used barrels for 18 years.
Yeah, at least 16. But let's give it a try. Cheers, buddy.
There's better the second time.
There's the proof. Wow.
Very, very sweet.
Oof.
Very sweet.
Boy, I should have had. Man, my eyes are watering. Wow.
I remember my first beer.
Holy crap. Yeah. So sweet. And that's what I'm learning about like the 99 ones.
Yeah.
They're so sweet.
Making them very applicable for hyper age dated products like this.
Yeah, well, this is the first one that I've seen that's this old. Which was when you
could be a sign of things to come.
It's definitely starting. A lot of people have seen already that Eagle Rare's got a 12-year now.
Indeed.
So it's like you and I have had conversations about this before. Remember, I mentioned something about you're going to start seeing some age statements, and people are going to start like, holy crap, you 10, 12, 14, 16, like it's going to happen. They've got so much whiskey that you're going to start seeing stuff like that. And then you've got companies like this
who are cracking the code on how to make hyper age stated whiskey.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't know whose idea. I don't know if it was Lasso Motel's idea or if MGP 18 years ago put some 99.1 in barrels and then it just became available.
Well,
Right. So it could be a combination of a few of those things, but for 18 years, I'm pretty sure MGP had some.
Probably a little of both, mostly the second.
MGP had some ideas 20 years ago.
Hey, they're way ahead of the curve on this than I am.
They are. And this is fantastic. Now, I'll tell you what, if you're able to find it.
It was also a good price for being 18 years old.
Yeah, now to be fair, it was a little pricey, right? It was what, $120? Something like that.
But if you go off your usual metric, isn't it $10 for every year on the age
That's
statement?
sort of the norm, is $10 per year for an age statement. So, for $120 for an 18-year. Now, for me, this wouldn't be a daily drinker because it's just too darn expensive. Mm-hmm. But to add it to your collection, to add it to your library, just something cool to have. This is so good. I'm gonna try it again, and hopefully I won't start having tears in my eyes.
I'll hand you my handkerchief.
And that's better. Now I'm adjusted for the proof, but still, everything we smelled on the nose. Yeah, there's even almost a little apricot, like a little stone fruit.
But it's a bright stone fruit. I can see
that. On the back of the palate, that's fun. Because you don't get a lot of the normal, because there's no rye in it, so you don't get a lot of baking spice.
Right.
But you're getting the proof,
which adds a spice to it.
Yeah, which adds a spice to it, but yeah, it's super good. So, these guys.
I like Lasso Motel. They have really unique looking bottles, good marketing, and They have some of the most interesting finishes on the market.
Yeah.
Sometime soon we'll review both the Naranja cask.
Yeah,
and the
we'll
Amarone
get into
finish.
both of those, but the 18 I wanted to do just because you don't see 18-year-old anything very often. You know, you just don't see it, but
It's hard to come by.
but it's super good. It's super interesting. I'm glad we bought it.